Hello, good afternoon. Hope you're having a great day. Welcome to WBS Afternoon Edition. I am Anita Mwangazi. Uganda's communication regulator, UCC, has warned of revoking licenses of telecom companies that violate the rights of consumers by sending junk messages. The regulator admits that it has employed all legal options, including naming telecom companies that fall below the standards. But the mess keeps continuing, and it is reaching the last option of rendering culprits inactive. Our senior business reporter, Kenneth Wide, reports.
After numerous complaints from consumers to Uganda Communications Regulator UCC about inequality services offered by Uganda telecom companies, the regulator is threatening to take the last disciplinary option, revoking operational license of the culprits. Godfrey Mutabazi is the Executive Director of Uganda Communications Commission.
If you are going to send junk mail, we shall take away your license. That's for aggregators, content aggregators. So that one is already functional.
Mutabazi believes that consumers are getting less what they expect from telecom companies, and enough room has been given to telecom operators to improve their quality of service to communication standards set. Mutabazi was speaking at the launch of another telecom company in Uganda, Vodafone. Vodafone company is offering 4G data and voice services.
Any customers that are loading airtime for 3,000 will have free calls on net on the Vodafone network for a day. If you load 10,000, you will have free on-net calls for a week. Or if you load 50,000, you will have monthly free calls to any other customers on the Vodafone network.
Dentro Vodafone, an international telecommunication company present in over 70 countries around the world, is expected to bring stiff competition in Uganda's telecom sector, which may bring down the cost of internet services in Uganda, that has for long been the most expensive in East Africa. Kenneth Bwire, WBS Business.
Bulky plans have for so long derailed Uganda's development plans, with implementation becoming the biggest challenge. Resources have been scattered across so many fields with no single focus, which has made implementation of any plan difficult. The National Planning Authority Executive Director, in an exclusive interview we heard earlier, breaks down the second national plan, revealing that focus will now be on agriculture, tourism, mineral development, and more industrialization. Uganda has had several targets and plans, all geared at ensuring national development. Currently, we have the National Development Plan 1 that's only ending, and we're yet to begin with the National Development Plan 2. Also, we have Vision 2040, and sometimes there's so many plans and very little implementation. In studio now, we're joined by Dr. Joseph Muvawala, the Executive Director, National Planning Authority, to demystify these big plans, ask the hard questions, and maybe get several answers. You're welcome, Doctor.
Thank you very much.
To start us off, there is the National Development Plan, and then there is Vision 2040. Could you just give us the difference between the two?
The difference, the vision sets the aspirations of the country. Actually, it's not a plan. It's a vision. Any institution, any government should have a vision. Any human being should be able to dream. So what we have in the vision is what we aspire to be as a country in 2040.
Okay.
And the vision is to transform this country from a peasant economy to a middle income country. That's our vision. And for that to achieve that, we have to implement the vision through different plans. Given that the vision is 30 years, then we should have 6 plans. So for the vision, you are free to dream.
Okay.
For the plan, you begin to implement.
So now we move to the National Development Plan 2 that is only about to be rolled out.
Yes.
What will be your focus this time around? What are those particular sectors that you intend to prioritize?
Now, there are 2 things in approach. One, we have what we call the fundamentals, and we have what we call the opportunities. And this time, we intend to focus on a few fundamentals and a few opportunities. We know that this country still has serious challenges. And for the next 5 years, We intend to focus on the agriculture sector,
Okay.
the tourism sector, minerals, oil and gas sector. Those are all opportunities. And for the fundamentals, we are focusing on infrastructure and human capital development, in the full meaning of human capital development.
Okay.
Yes. And we can explain what is entailed in human capital development.
Yes, before we get into explaining what human capital development is, there is the aspect of we have the plans. You have mentioned it before, so many plans, so little implementation. And it's been said before, these plans that you've laid out, what are you going to do differently to ensure that finally we have something there so that we have these plans implemented?
Focus. I think the biggest problem for any country is to focus and prioritize. I can give you a good example. In the last 5 years, you've seen that the stock of infrastructure in this country has improved tremendously.
That's true.
Tremendously. But what has been the decision by government? To focus on infrastructure. And that's what we are saying again. Focus, focus, and focus again. Because we have a lot of problems, multitude of problems, but we have to agree what are the critical problems. And all studies in this country tell us, the diagnostics we've done, that the most binding, and the catchword here is most binding, is infrastructure.
To the deaths of 19 people who were killed in Cairo's football match clashes. The investigations fall on the heels of President Vladimir Putin's arrival to Cairo this week to assess the security situation in Egypt.
The footage shows fans being forced to walk through a narrow metal passageway before being able to enter the stadium. But as the crowd surges forward, the metal structure collapses. Police then fire tear gas. That sets off what appears to be a stampede. Egyptian authorities have launched an investigation. Well, the Egyptian Prime Minister Ibrahim Mahlab says it was a tragedy, but he says it was also an attempt to distort Egypt's reputation during Vladimir Putin's visit. The Russian president's on a 2-day trip and attended an opera with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. President Sisi has said he will be looking to improve security.
Well, we'll now take a short break. WBS Afternoon Edition.
This is VOA.
Identified some basic principles.
You name it, we talk about it. A very, very rare and unique opportunity.
We go beyond the headlines.
This is VOA.
We pretty much touch on anything that you can think of. Politics, health issues, human rights issues.
My role as a journalist is to inform the world, to make a difference, to make a change. That's what makes me tick.
Wherever you are, Voice of America is on.
I am Shaka Sali, host and senior editor of VOA's international call-in talk show, Straight Talk Africa.
WBS TV is pleased to inform our esteemed viewers that we have completed our signal upgrade. You are therefore encouraged to reset your TV and benefit from the high-definition quality signal. Keep watching WBS Television.
Welcome back to WBS Afternoon Edition. Malaysia's highest court has upheld opposition leader Anwar Ibrahim's conviction on sodomy charges and his 5-year prison sentence in a case he and his supporters have denounced as fabrication. The federal court's judgment today upheld a ruling by the Court of Appeal in March last year, which found the 67-year-old guilty of sodomizing a former political aide.
Has been a politically motivated persecution by the government from day one. And now the Malaysian government has got their man. They've put Anwar away for 5 years. They have ended his political career. They've thrown the political opposition in disarray. And essentially they've left a very black mark on human rights issues in Malaysia. What political opposition aide claiming an abuse would be received by the top police officer and by the Prime Minister of Malaysia prior to filing charges? they have tried to maintain this idea that somehow this was an individual pursuing a case. But the Malaysian government threw all their resources behind this. And in fact, when they weren't quite confident about their own prosecutors, they brought in their star lawyer, the special prosecutor that was brought in by the government for this final trial.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has conceded defeat in Delhi in the Delhi state elections after vote counting showed anti-corruption campaigner Arvind Kejriwal's party heading for a landslide victory. According to initial results that have just been released this morning, the opposition Aam Aadmi Party (AAP), led by former Chief Minister Kejriwal, was farther ahead than straw polls earlier in the week had predicted, and leading in 62 seats out of 70.
Yeah, absolutely. As you've mentioned, it's a huge, looking like a huge victory for the Aam Aadmi Party. In fact, we're looking at an opposition potentially of just 3 members in the State Assembly. What this means for Indian politics is that the points that the Aam Aadmi had set up its party on, anti-corruption, clean politics, an easier go for the ordinary Indian, those values, those demands still stand. And if Delhi can do it, well, it'll be interesting to see what other states make of it. So is this perhaps a change in the attitude to the way in which the newer parties are perceived in India? That will also be one to watch in the coming 5 years as the Aam Aadmi takes control. But we should mention here, and you've mentioned that that this is a state election. Voters in India generally tend to vote differently on a national scale and a state-based level. Because Prime Minister Modi was projected by the BJP in this election, it seems to have merged into one for the ruling party at the centre. But by and large, if you look at trends and the way in which Indians vote, they do vote on very separate points in both state and national elections.
Pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine have intensified shelling of government forces on all front lines and appear to be amassing forces for new offensives. Latest information indicates that the separatists in eastern Ukraine have surrounded a town.
Hi, David. Hello there. We are in the town of Yanikeva, which is close to Gorligorsk. It is about 10 kilometers, under 10 kilometers, as the crow flies to the town, to Debaltseve. We've just spoken to a separatist commander here in Yanikeva, and he indeed tells us that he's here in Debaltseve is now completely surrounded by separatists. As you rightly say there, the Ukrainian military are denying this and saying that there are ongoing battles in and around the main supply route. Now, we were on that supply route yesterday in a town called Azimowsk, which is linked to Debaltseve. It has been the only road in and out, and that's where we've seen some of these humanitarian corridors set up to try and pull the civilians out. Certainly yesterday, the Ukrainian military that we saw and spoke to were in basically a state of disarray. They were very reluctant to speak. They wanted us out of the area immediately, and they seemed to be pulling their heavy weaponry back. There were tanks that were being set up in positions in fields that were not there only last week when we were there and actually got into Debaltseve. This separatist commander in Yanikeva tells us that, as he understands it, there are no separatists in Debaltseve yet. He says that there's still Ukrainian military inside. But as I say, the situation is very fluid. The commander told us that he has no direct contact with separatist fighters on that front line, certainly on this side of Debaltseve. So it's very difficult at this stage to verify anything. But certainly what we've been reporting is consistent with what seems to be going on.
That's the WBS Afternoon edition. Thanks for watching. I am Anita Mwangazi. Bye-bye.